Tomorrow is going to mark the second week since Hamas launched its brutal terrorist attack and invasion from Gaza into southern Israel, killing thousands of people and taking captive some 200 plus hostages. Well, following a very intense week, the president, as you know, has visited Israel this past week and has pledged U.S. military support to continue. And the Israeli military move now, it appears to be imminent to go into Gaza. Joining me now for the latest update as to what's happening is Chuck Holton, who is right now in Israel. He's a freelance war reporter. Chuck, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Well, I know it's midnight there. First of all, thank you for losing some sleep to join us and give us what is the latest. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
We've been down in the south all day. We have been staying in Jerusalem because it's just easier in terms of bandwidth and safety. But during the day, we either go to the north or to the south to interview and see what's going on in those two areas. The fighting really has not stopped in the last 2 weeks. It's not like they just attacked on October 7th and then it's nothing's happened since then. The Hamas terrorists and Hezbollah terrorists have been attacking Israel nonstop every day since then. There was just a massive rocket attack in Ashdod and Ashkelon out on the coast, and that's quite a ways from Gaza. So they are still firing rockets, and they're firing them out of civilian areas. The IDF, for its part, has been absolutely hammering those sites in Gaza. You understand, when these terrorists set up on a roof of a building and start firing rockets off the roof of that building, the IDF then pancakes that building and takes it out. And then Hamas moves over to another building, and they do it over and over and over again. It's really unfortunate, but obviously every IDF soldier that we talk to says we have but one option at this point, and that is to go in and to absolutely just demolish and dismantle the entire organization of Hamas. Now, Hamas is working very hard to hide behind the civilian populace, to weaponize the civilians against Israel and the West, and to weaponize whatever aid comes in there so that they can continue to fight. And today we talked to a master sergeant from the IDF with something like 17 years of service. And this guy was telling us that his job is going to be to go into those tunnels under Gaza. They said there's something like 300 miles of tunnels under there. And you can imagine how dangerous and difficult that job will be, especially knowing that there are hostages likely hidden somewhere in some of those tunnels. And so we definitely need to be praying for those guys.
Wow, we really do. Chuck, thank you so much for that update. It's just an incredible situation, and I do want to take your words and encourage all of our viewers and listeners to take the seriousness of this time and be praying. So it appears the invasion that you just described is imminent. Any idea whatsoever in terms of timing when that may take place?
Well, the IDF won't tell me when they're going to launch, and if they did, I couldn't tell you. So obviously, we don't want to tell bad people things they don't need to know, and that is one of the most closely guarded secrets. But I'll just say this. This is going to be a massive, absolutely massive combined arms operation on the scale of the shock and awe campaign into Iraq in 2003. We're talking about up to 500,000 troops that will likely be engaged in combat before too long. And this is not planned over a course of years or even months. This is going from a standing start just 2 weeks ago. The logistics alone behind this kind of an operation are absolutely mind-boggling. But you're talking about having to coordinate all the moving parts of aviation and armor and artillery and infantry and signal. And intelligence and figure out what targets to hit and figure out who's supposed to hit them and figure out how they're not going to shoot each other in the process. This is an absolutely unbelievable undertaking that they're about to do. And they realize that the more time they spend preparing, the less time they'll have to spend fighting. This is one of those, things that allegory about George Washington sharpening his axe. The more they sharpen their axe, the less time they will have to spend chopping down the tree. And so they are not rushing it. I think it's a good sign that they're not rushing it, because that means that they're not acting out of their emotion or a need for vengeance, but they're very professionally putting this plan together, getting it approved, and then putting it in place. We were down in the south today in an undisclosed location very near the Gaza Strip border, and we could hear the firing of the IDF soldiers out on the firing range, practicing shooting bullets and taking target practice, getting up to speed, because they know they're going to have to use those skills for real very soon.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. While you're traveling back and forth throughout the country in different places, have you been able to take a pulse in terms of how President Biden's Oval Office speech is playing in Israel? How is it being received?
Well, look, every Israeli is grateful for the aid that they're receiving from the United States. That is the first thing that has to be said. Having said that, most of them understand that what Joe Biden did when he came over here, he did not come over here to encourage the Israelis to do what they need to do to dismantle Hamas. He came over here to try to put the brakes on what they need to do to dismantle Hamas. They are very unhappy about that. Many of them have told me what President Biden did is came over here and set conditions for the U.S. aid that would likely make it impossible for Israel to actually dismantle Hamas for good. They basically tied one hand behind their back by telling them, for example, that America would not support a preemptive strike of Hezbollah, that the Israelis have got to allow up to $100 million of aid to come into Gaza for the civilian populace. But you understand that this is the same civilian populace that was dancing in the streets when they heard of the attack on October 7th, and B, virtually there's no possible chance that this aid will not be used to encourage and sustain the 25,000 fighters of Hamas that will be fighting back against the IDF when they go in there. This is one of those things that by trying to make it more comfortable for the terrorists, they are making it more dangerous for the IDF, and that obviously is not a good thing.
Well, Chuck Holton, thank you so much for joining me live from Israel and for this incredible update that you provided. Godspeed to you, and know that our prayers are with you and the people of Israel and the IDF right now. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.